Hello everyone and welcome to Season 2, Episode 6 of Paranormal Living with me, your host, Jared Warren. So I do hope you enjoy this episode today, everybody. It is a solo podcast again. Unfortunately, Jade can't be with me this week, but the show must go on. We do have a packed out episode for you. We have some latest news regarding Paranormal Living, a big announcement which I can't wait to tell you about, and of course our main topic today, which is all about haunted dolls. Rather creepy, eerie to think about. While I've been doing my research, I was home alone and, getting all the notes together, and I honestly felt like there was someone in the room with me. It kept freaking me out. Just looking at these pictures of these dolls and getting this research, it was very eerie, to say the least. But before we do go any further, remember everyone to like our Facebook page, Paranormal Living, Twitter, Paranormal Live 20, TikTok, Paranormal Living, our email address, paranormallivingpodcast@gmail.com, and of course YouTube, Paranormal Living TV. So first of all, on latest news regarding Paranormal Living. So many of you know, we do, most Saturday nights, we do a live show, Paranormal Living Live, which we stream on Facebook and YouTube. These have been going down really well. We've had some amazing experiences on there and looked at some cool stuff and, done some experiments which have gone really well. So thank you everyone who tuned in and of course tuned in last Saturday. But we have decided we're going to move the show now to Tuesday nights. This show's going to be a bit different to what we have planned in the past. We've got quite a few things planned going forward for this, and some fantastic ideas and some special guests on there as well. So this will be starting this Tuesday coming, the 23rd of March at 7:30 p.m. GMT time. So I do hope you can join us on there. Like I say, on the Facebook and YouTube, please do subscribe. We could do with getting them subscribers up on our YouTube page. And come and join us, get your comments in for the new show, Paranormal Tuesdays. And as you gathered, it didn't take me that long to figure that name out. As I did mention as well, we do have some special guests lined up for Paranormal Living on the podcast as well. These will be starting in the next few weeks, and then I can get them out. So we have some fantastic people lined up, fantastic mediums and paranormal investigators. It is an exciting time coming up for Paranormal Living, so I absolutely can't wait. So I do hope you enjoy these upcoming episodes within the next few weeks. Now it is time for the big news, the news you've all been waiting for. Sunday, the 11th of April, 2021, we will be streaming live on our Facebook page and YouTube, direct from the most haunted place in the UK, which is the Ancient Ramin. As many of you know, we did plan to do this back in November. We're supposed to be starting recording, but unfortunately, obviously due to everything what's gone on, it's been postponed, and finally we have a date. It's confirmed. So we will be going live from the Ancient Ramin, everybody. I absolutely can't wait. So over the course of the evening, we will be filming for our first episode of Paranormal Living TV as well. But we will be streaming live at 8 p.m, 10 p.m, and midnight, GMT time, of course. It's going to be an amazing night. This place is full of history, amazing stories. It is a place where so many paranormal investigators go and have so many experiences. So I can't wait to share that with you. We will also be joined by our resident medium, Denise Kershaw. Unfortunately, she can't be there in person with us because, as many of you know, she wasn't too well not that long ago. But she will be joining us live over the stream. She will be joining us through the walkthrough and on some of the experiments. I'm really interested to see her take on it and what she feels and what she picks up. So don't forget, everybody, Sunday the 11th of April, we will be live from the Ancient Ramin. So guys, I want to know if you've ever been to the Ancient Ramin, or you know of any stories or any people who've been there. Please do get in contact with us. Like you said, in the description below is all the links to our social media and email, of course. Also, if you do have any stories to share with us, or you would like to come on the podcast, again, please do get in contact with us and we can sort that out with you. So, of course, our main topic today is all about haunted dolls. Obviously, the most famous doll, which is Annabelle, which we will touch upon within the show this evening. But we do have 5 dolls for you, going by the name of Charlie, Mandy, Ruby, Letta, and, of course, like I mentioned, Annabelle as well, to finish this show off. As I mentioned earlier on, this is a very eerie subject, and doing the research into these dolls, I was home alone, and as I mentioned earlier, it was very creepy. Just looking at these pictures, especially like the porcelain ones, which are like Victorian style dolls, very, very creepy, and I honestly thought there was someone in the house. It was freaking me out a bit. But it is a cool little episode to do. Very interesting. I really enjoyed doing the research into this. And I really hope you enjoy this as well. And this is the story of our first doll, called Charlie. In 1968, a peculiar doll was discovered in the attic of an old Victorian home in upstate New York, found in the bottom of a tattered trunk full of newspaper. The only other item with it was a yellow piece of paper containing the Lord's Prayer. The old newspaper used to pack the trunk had dates going back to the early 1930s, but the actual age of the doll could not be determined. The doll was added to a collection of other antique dolls the family owned and was given the name Charlie. At first, the homeowner's family, consisting of himself, the wife, and their 5 daughters, paid little mind to the toy, as it blended in with their pre-existing doll collection quite nicely. It wasn't until Charlie seemed to move from place to place, on the bench full of dolls, that anyone took notice. The parents were quick to blame their 5 mischievous children, but the children all maintained that they knew nothing of how the doll moved. Then the youngest daughter, who was 4 years old, made a startling statement. Charlie had spoken to her when she got up to use the bathroom in the middle of the night. Naturally, the parents blamed the young child for having a wild imagination. While the parents never witnessed Charlie doing anything, the children soon became fixated with the doll and were terrified by it. All 5 of them refused to get up during the night to use the bathroom. None of them would venture within 5 feet of the doll. The final straw came when the youngest child was covered in scratches. She said it wasn't from the cat, it was from Charlie. The truth was never fully discovered. The parents, eager to end the chaos, took the doll back to the attic, locked him in the trunk, where he was found. Things soon returned to normal, and then the doll was forgotten. Years later, once the children were grown, the house was sold, and the trunk was removed from the attic, to be sold at a garage sale. The doll remained one of the last things to go. Finally, a woman bought the doll to add to her antique doll collection, and the homeowner recounted their own story to which regarding Charlie. Since then, the doll has changed hands a few more times, but its story has followed it. He has still been rumoured to still move from time to time, but his ghostly power seems to be mainly unlocked by children. Charlie the Haunted Doll now resides at a shop called Local Artisan. There he sits among taxidermy animals, unusual art, and other oddities, where he can be viewed by the public. Mandy, one of the most haunted dolls in Canada, as known as Canada's answer to Annabelle. Mandy's latest home is the Quinsell Museum in British Columbia. Her cracked face is twisted into a sinister, half-looking smile. Her eyes seem to track your every movement, and electronics have a habit of acting haywire in Mandy's presence. She was donated to the Quinsell Museum back in 1991. Her previous owner said that she was plagued by the sound of a baby crying at night. Following the sound to her basement, she found nothing but a breeze blowing through an open window. After finding Mandy in storage in the basement, she donated the creepy vintage porcelain doll to the Quinsell Museum. Mysteriously, the phantom crying stopped once the doll was gone. Mandy seems content creeping out visitors and playing tricks. Disembodied footsteps have been heard throughout the museum. Staff lunches go missing, only to be found stuffed into a drawer. Small items go missing and later turn up in strange places. Mandy has had to be put in her own glass viewing case, keeping her away from the other dolls because she would harm them. Her eyes seem to follow you as you walk around her exhibit. And although she has never been seen moving, somehow a little stuffed lamb that is always sitting on her lap has been found outside the locked exhibit on the floor. People have some issues with photography and videotaping. Camera batteries go dead or devices malfunction. And the staff have started to recommend asking Mandy if it is okay to take her picture. Devices seem to work more reliably if you do so. These are the words from the chair of the museum, Honey Affleck. You try and videotape her and your camera light will go on and off, flickering. And people have seen the lamb that always sits on Mandy's lap would always end up underneath her display case. Nobody touches the case, but somehow the lamb always ends up on the floor. Letta. This is a story of Letta, whose owner Kerry Walton said he discovered the doll in the 1970s under the floorboards of an abandoned house he was scavenging in Wagga Wagga, New South Wales, Australia. Wooden, with glass eyes, the doll was put in his trunk. Walton then proceeded to drive home, until that is when he heard movement and a howl. Let me out. Hence the name Letta was born. Upon bringing Letta home, Walton said his children were terrified of it. He also heard it talking to itself and moving on its own. Also, dogs acted aggressively towards it. Those who encountered Letta may have vivid nightmares, feel nauseous. Plus, Walton suggests that Letta walks around at night. When we had it examined, Walton claimed Letta dated back 200 years, made with real human hair by Eastern European gypsies. It was also supposedly haunted by a restless spirit of a drowned boy. Unsurprisingly, Letta has made the television rounds and become a famous haunted doll. Despite the inky cloud of dread and anxiousness hanging around it, Walton has vowed never to get rid of it. Even to this day, Letta is still making rare appearances and still being heard, moving around and making himself noticed. Ruby. This is a story from Bailey, a paranormal investigator in the USA. This doll was given to me on an investigation by a little girl called Lindsay. This was aside from our original investigation. We were not called out from their home to do with the doll, but the little girl took me aside and told me to get Ruby out. Shivers went down my spine. But I had to first assume that she may have had a very wild imagination. Lindsay also told me that Ruby loves when she sleeps and plays too much with her. I accepted the doll, having no idea that something was up with the doll. I really thought the little girl just wanted to get rid of it and give it to me. I ended up taking Ruby home. I treated her like a regular doll and not like a haunted object. Looking back, I wish I would have been a little more suspicious, but it was a long day with a 5-hour journey. As time went on, I started to notice some super odd things. The next morning, I wake up and I just started staring at her. I had no idea why, and then I saw the bottom of her hair move. Then bam, it hit me. The little girl wasn't lying. I did happen to call her parents and ask if they knew anything about the doll named Ruby. They said no. They told me that Lindsay doesn't play with dolls, and they don't recall her having a doll. I immediately looked over at the doll and just couldn't help wonder where it came from. I was sort of assuming that maybe someone, a neighbour, an adult, gave it to her, knowing that the doll was more than just a doll. Believe it or not, people actually do disturbing things like that. But from what I found out and encountered with Ruby is that there is definitely a spirit attachment, however very harmless, just very odd things such as odd coincidences, technology failures and interruptions. She also seemed very playful, especially with my other spirits. However, she is different. She feels sad and gets mad from time to time. So I decided to start some spirit box sessions with her. As I come to realise, she's very shy, so it takes her a while to really come through. But when she does, she talks a lot. But when she's done speaking, nothing will come through. One of my sessions, I asked her how she passed away, and she replied, "I'm not," which was quite a startling response, because that means she doesn't believe she is passed. It can be common if people are killed or have committed suicide. It happens so fast. It's hard for them to believe that they are actually dead. Sessions after sessions later, with very odd dreams, come to find out Ruby had hung herself, and she was living in an all-girls school, which could have been an orphanage, and she was hinting at signs of abuse. And things were starting to add up for me about Ruby, and it made me very, very sad about this little girl to have such an awful life, so bad that she took her own life. Ruby and I have passed the point about sitting in sessions and talking about her abuse. She told me that what she likes and wants to be a normal girl. I asked her what normal meant, and she just kept saying she wants to be a normal girl with a normal life. And that's what I really want for Ruby, just a normal life, and someone who will let her live there and help her along the way. Annabelle. The real Annabelle was given to a student nurse called Donna, a birthday gift by her mother. One thing to remember, Annabelle was bought from a second-hand shop from a hobby store. She was living with her friend Angie at the time, and Donna was delighted with the gift at first. But the conjuring doll quickly became a source of great fear for the girls. Annabelle made only very small movements to begin with, but that could be put down to Donna or Angie accidentally moving her, for example ending up on the floor instead of the chair. Maybe she just fell off. Soon though, the movement started to increase, and the doll started to move more. For example, she may have ended up on the couch instead of Donna's bed, or outside Angie's door immediately after she returned to Donna's room. Their close friend, called Lou, was very nervous of the doll. He believed she was evil or possessed, and that something needed to be done about it. But Donna and Angie were very progressive in their views and didn't think anything of the sort, and still believed they were the cause of the doll moving. Not long after, the story becomes more sinister. Soon the girls were starting to find notes around their apartment. The strange thing was that the notes were written on parchment paper, and neither of the two girls ever used parchment paper before. The notes said various things, but more commonly, they said things like "help Lou" and "help us." Donna came home from work one day and found the doll in the usual spot on her bed, which made a change. But unfortunately this time, she had red marks on her hands, which looked like blood, or seemed to be some kind of red liquid. Whatever it was coming from the doll itself. That was it. It was time for the girls to call someone in for help. So they called a medium in. The medium sat down with Annabelle, Donna and Angie. The story they were given, that the land which the apartment complex was built upon used to be a field. A young girl around age 7 years old was found dead there many years before. When the doll came into their apartment, Annabelle's spirit was still in the area in which she died, and because she was fond of the doll, her spirit became attached to it. Annabelle became Annabelle the doll. Donna and Angie were very loving and giving. However, because they felt sorry for the poor girl that had been found dead, they wanted the doll to stay because they didn't want her to be left alone. Not long after, Lou was attacked by Annabelle. Maybe she didn't like him, or maybe he reminded her of the man who treated her so badly in life. But he was the one that she showed her true self to. A few things occurred, including some bad dreams and some visions of Annabelle. But the attack that made Donna and Angie call the Warrens was a physical one. Angie and Lou were spending some time together when they heard movement in Donna's room, but she wasn't home. They were frozen in fear. At first they were concerned about an intruder, but then quickly realised the movement was in fact Annabelle. Lou took a look inside Donna's room, but there was no one there. Annabelle had moved. She was supposed to be sitting on the bed, but was sitting on the chair. As he moved forward towards Annabelle, he had a feeling of something terribly, terribly wrong. And then he felt a terrible pain on his chest, and then realised he had a series of claw marks, raking marks like someone had leapt at him and roughly scratched him. No one was in the room. He knew the marks had come from Annabelle. What was stranger still about these scratches is that they healed straight away within just 2 days, and no trace whatsoever. Then the Warrens were called, along with the priest, who turned up with them. It was discovered that Annabelle's main goal was to take possession of Donna's soul. Annabelle was a demon. She was attached to the doll. The Warrens said that demons don't possess items or things. Instead, they possess people. The priest eventually exorcised the apartment, and the Warrens took Annabelle away with them. They both agreed that it would be best to drive home on the back roads, worried that if they drove along the main highways, Annabelle would find a way to cause them an accident. Sure enough, they were plagued with car problems all the way home. Power steering failed, the brakes failed, the engine of the car kept stalling. The problem ceased for a little while, once Ed Warren sprinkled Annabelle with some holy water. Once the pair got home, Ed put the doll on his desk, thinking she'd be safe there for a little while. Soon she showed them what she was really made of. Annabelle was seen rising above the desk, levitating on multiple occasions. Soon the activity slowed down and stopped, and the Warrens thought that perhaps the demon had quitted. But sure enough, she started moving again. The Warrens would leave Annabelle in one place, and not long after she would turn up in a completely different room. It was then decided Ed and Lorraine would call a priest, but he didn't take it too seriously and said to Annabelle that she couldn't hurt him because she was just a doll. This was a big mistake, because he was in a car accident on the way home. The car turned over, the brakes failed, and the car was completely written off. Although the priest was badly hurt, he did survive. Annabelle is still around today, residing in the lock case that the Warrens built to keep her from getting free and roaming around. There is a warning sign on the case saying "Do not touch," as well as a cross. Some say they do see Annabelle moving in the case, as she is waiting to be freed again. I do hope you've enjoyed that, everybody. There are 5 stories about some famous haunted dolls. One thing I was thinking about as I've been putting this episode together and obviously doing all the research, how cool it would be, if possible, to be able to get some of these people on who had experiences with these dolls. Some of the families, I don't know how difficult that would be to track down, but I think it'd definitely be great to get their insight into exactly what happened and, their exact word for word of the experience they had. So I want to know from you lot listening, have you seen any of these dolls? Have you had any experiences with other dolls which we didn't touch upon? Please do get in contact with us, paranormallivingpodcast@gmail.com. And again, all the social medias and our YouTube page is in the description below. So please do get in contact and let me know if you do have any stories yourself that you would like to share with us. I'd also like to say thank you everyone for downloading the podcast. We've had some messages recently, people saying how much you're enjoying the podcast, leaving some reviews on Podbean and Apple and sending some messages to us. So we really, really do appreciate it. I'm really happy that you're enjoying the episodes as well. Going back 3 episodes when I did the development story about myself and how I got started and a bit of an insight into how I'm working and things, I did mention about private readings. This is something, I'm hoping to start up in the near future. So again, if you would like a private reading with me or just a bit of a chat, or if you need some advice, please do contact us and I will get back to you and we can sort something out. Last couple of things from me, everybody. Don't forget, next Tuesday, the 23rd, we will be live on Facebook and YouTube with our new series, Paranormal Tuesdays. So please do get subscribing to our YouTube page and, of course, Facebook. Get your comments in and we're going to have a fantastic time. And, of course, the big news, which we shared with you this evening, the 11th of April, we will be live from the Ancient Ramin at 8 p.m, 10 p.m, and midnight. As mentioned, we want you to be involved with that. What you feel, what you pick up, what you see over the course of the evening. So remember, guys, please do subscribe to our YouTube page and get liking on Facebook to be involved in this very, very special night. Finally, everyone, please do enjoy the upcoming weekend. Stay safe. We will see you Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. GMT time. All the best, everyone. Love and light. Adios.